Saturday, August 9th, 12 p.m. New York time. Welcome back, investors, to Winning Wall Street's Money. Just finished another week. We're going to look at the Magnificent Seven stocks. If you had ever heard of them, well, they're part of the market that represents the largest weighted average of technology. I'll break that down momentarily. First, we're going to compare them to the NASDAQ 100. NASDAQ 100 is a stock index heavily weighted toward technology companies, and the Magnificent Seven are part of that index. NASDAQ 100 is also part of the S&P 500 index. And then some of these Magnificent Seven companies are inside an index called the Dow 30. What's in common is these seven companies are heavily weighted in those indexes. So when these companies move in another direction, up or down, they have a big impact on the indexes they're part of. Yeah, you can have a stock index as small as 30 companies, as large as 500. But when you have the underlying company represent a large weighted average, they impact that stock index much more. We'll identify if any of these companies are making new highs for the year, new lows for the year, which one's the leadership. And over the past year or two, several of them had been added to the S&P 500, helping the growth of the S&P 500 because they took out the underperforming companies and added these. Well, that being said, that happens also on the NASDAQ 100 and S&P 500. The indexes have been here longer, the underlying stocks. I choose to invest in stock indexes, the good ones, instead of the underlying companies directly. Five years of history here. Each candle is a week. NASDAQ 100. The bottom, that's been the low for the past 5 years. In the top right, we made a new high for the year, new high for the past history. Yep. So we're in a rally, up strong, big body for the week. We have a gap down here. It's not been filled yet. Again, here's the low of the year, this yellow horizontal line, and here's the high. Right off the bat, again, take away when we compare it to the other ones, made a new high for the week, a new high for the year, all-time new high. Let's go look at the underlying companies, see how they're performing. Apple. Here's the high of 2024. So Apple is underperforming the NASDAQ 100. Here's the low of the year Apple. Here's the high of the year Apple. And again, here's the high of last year. Look at Apple this week. Huge trading range. Huge bullish impulse move candle. Impulse move, huge upward movement. We had a consolidation here. Building energy, making higher lows. Again, big impulse move on the upside, strong. Already labeled midpoint of that big impulse move. What happened this past week, one of the biggest things this month, this season, this year for Apple is they made a deal with the White House leadership, currently Trump, for the tariffs. There were more tariffs that took effect this month. There are tariffs that took effect since this year. Apple has special treatment. That's right, I say again, special treatment. They gave a gift to the president. We'll see when he leaves office if that gift he takes personally with him or turns over to the National Archives as part of the policy of the White House. Wouldn't be the first president to take gifts out of the White House that belong to the people, us, the citizens, and they had to give them back. That being said, the tariffs, Apple made a choice, and instead of complying, they lobbied, and they won the lobby. They're paying a huge amount of money that Trump decided where that money's going to go. It's a one-time fee they're paying. I don't know if you ever played the math game called someone offers you $1 million right now, or if we'll give you a penny and another rollover increase on that every day for the rest of your life. Example, today I give you a pennies, 1 penny. Well, tomorrow I'm going to give you 2 pennies. Next day, 3 pennies. The next day, 4 days, pennies. But you're adding up more and more. That being said, when it's 2 pennies, that next day, you're going to do multiply it by X. So again, the first day, 1 penny. The second day, 2 pennies. Now, the third day, multiply that. 2, 1, 3. Fourth day, multiply that. 1 and 4, 5. 5. So again, you're progressing faster to a higher number, bypassing other numbers. You'll get to $1 million very fast. But again, this administration, the president, chose to accept that flat dollar amount, one-time fee, where Apple is speculating that in the future, in the United States, that insurance would be higher, labor fees would be higher, material costs would be higher. So they're going to continue to produce stuff in another country where they'll be paying less for that stuff, and their profits, gains will continue momentum up. Yeah. So they made the better choice. They bamboozled the leadership by choice. But again, leadership got a gift, and that's maybe what they were looking for. Amazon. Here's a high for the year. We're still below it. And for the week, we made a lower low, lower high. So we have two huge companies underperforming the stock index, Nasdaq 100. This orange vertical line is when Amazon was added to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You also have a gap here. Google, new high for the week. Here's a high for the year. It's still underperforming the Nasdaq 100. So far, 3 companies underperforming the Nasdaq 100. The Nasdaq 100 performing better. But at least Google did make a new high this year, above the high of last year. Meta, well, last week was a new high of the year. This week, inside candle. There's a gap. Big concern here is inside candle on top of a trend, smaller trading range, potential reversal. So if this trend's lower, that's going to work against those stock index I mentioned. And on the downside, some places I'm looking for potential trade ideas in these key levels. So you notice these gaps I've been showing you on several of these stocks. I'm anticipating we'll get closer to testing those this year. Microsoft, same thing, inside candle for the week. Last week was that big bearish pin bar. Watch for a breakout on here. And NVIDIA, new high for the year. Again, this orange vertical line is when it was added to the Dow Jones Industrial Average last year. Tesla, not part of the Dow, just part of the Nasdaq 100, the S&P 500. Here's the high of last year. It's underperforming the Nasdaq 100. It's also in a wedge. Building a lot of energy down here. What's interesting is been making higher lows down here. Consolidation, big impulse move up, engulfing candle, strong, broke up, new consolidation, so staircase pattern higher high. This wedge inside of it is a coil building energy for a breakout. I'm looking to see how it performs breaking above the top of this consolidation for a potential trade idea. Short term, there's trade ideas inside of here, but for vesting, we're going to see what's going to happen. Again, I mentioned here the Nasdaq 100. We're going to also include another one. Netflix, not part of the Magnificent Seven, just to show you. Here's a high for the year. Here's a low of the year. it's performing better than some of the Magnificent Seven. So again, there are other companies, technology in the NASDAQ 100 that are better than some of these Magnificent Sevens. And for the week, made a reversal to make a lower high, but a lower low and closing above. So I want to expect this going to have another extension to the upside leg, getting to test the highs of this year. It's part of the NASDAQ 100. So I'm going to zoom in again so you can show you. Apple below the high of last year. Amazon broke it. Google broke it. Meta broke it. Microsoft broke it. Nvidia do high again. So Tesla below the highs of last year. Mixed signals here, right? Yeah. A lot of them just recently reported their earnings. For trade ideas, I'll be looking at multiple time frames I show in my other videos. This is just giving you a part of the insight to help better understand the stock indexes and some of the individual companies, the negative and positive effects on the stock indexes. But the ones I would be most focused on, again, the ones that just did the inside candles for trade ideas once they break out of those. Thank you as always, spending just a little time with me. That's it for the video. Thank you for watching.